Good day and welcome. I am glad you have chosen to be here to invest this portion of your day not in distraction but in discovery, not in entertainment but in education. The most profound form of education there is, the study of a life well lived. Before we embark on the central theme of our discussion today, I want to pose a question to you. It is a question that has followed me for most of my adult life, a question that has served as the primary catalyst for my own studies. It is, I believe, one of the most vital questions a person can ask themselves. The question is this: why the profound disparity in human outcomes? Why is it that two individuals can begin in the very same city, attend the same schools, work in the same industry, be governed by the same laws, and live under the same economic sky, and yet, over the course of a decade or two, find themselves inhabiting entirely different worlds? One finds themselves in a world of abundance, a world of achievement, of ever-expanding influence, of deep and meaningful relationships, of vibrant health, and of a quiet, unshakable joy. They have become a person of substance. They have designed a life, not merely lived one. The other, despite perhaps equal or even greater effort, finds themselves in a world of scarcity, a world of frustration, of feeling perpetually behind, of relationships strained by pressure, and of a nagging sense that life is something that is happening to them rather than for them. They are living a life of quiet desperation, a life of default. What is the difference that makes the difference? For many years I searched for the answer in all the conventional places, and perhaps you have too. We are told a variety of stories about what separates the successful from the unsuccessful. The first and most common story is that the difference is circumstance. Well, a person might say, if I had their luck, if I had their connections, if the economy were better, if my boss wasn't so difficult, then, of course, I would be successful too. It is an easy answer, it is a comforting answer, and it is a profoundly incorrect answer. My great mentor, a man of incredible wisdom, once taught me that the same wind blows on us all. Let me repeat that, as it is a foundational concept for our entire study today. The very same wind blows on us all. The wind of recession blows. The wind of technological change blows. The wind of social upheaval blows. The wind of personal tragedy blows. These are the winds of life, and they do not discriminate. They blow on the rich and the poor, the educated and the uneducated, the ambitious and the complacent. If it is the same wind blowing on everyone, then the wind cannot be the reason for the difference in destination. If two ships set out from the same harbor, and one reaches a port of prosperity while the other is dashed upon the rocks, you would not blame the wind. You would rightly look to the one variable that made the difference, and that variable is the set of the sail. How one chooses to set their sail in the prevailing winds of life, that is what determines the final destination. Circumstances are the wind. Your response to those circumstances is the set of your sail, and it is the set of the sail, not the blowing of the wind, that we are here to master. The second story we are told is that the difference is formal education. We are taught that the key to a good life is a good education, a degree, a diploma. And let me be clear, formal education is of immense value. It is a remarkable tool for developing skills and opening doors. It will, as it is often said, help you make a living. But it is not the key difference. How can we be so sure? Because we all know individuals with advanced degrees who are struggling financially, emotionally, spiritually, and we know of others with far less formal schooling who have built empires of success and fulfillment. So, while education is a powerful tool, it cannot be the ultimate answer. There must be another kind of education, another form of intelligence at play. It is the distinction between learning how to make a living and learning how to live. The third story, and one that is particularly prevalent in a culture that values effort, is that the difference is simply hard work. And again, there is a truth to this. Nothing of value is ever created without diligent, focused, consistent effort. The willingness to work hard is a noble and necessary virtue. But look around you. Is the world not filled with hard-working people who are not getting ahead? People who labor from sunrise to sundown, who pour their heart and soul into their work, yet find themselves on a treadmill running faster and faster just to stay in the same place. Hard work is essential, but it is not enough. A person can spend their entire life diligently climbing a ladder, only to discover in their final years that the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. Effort without direction is waste. Labor without wisdom is tragedy. So, if it is not our circumstances, not our formal education, and not merely the intensity of our labor, what then is the ultimate variable? What is the set of the sail? The answer, the key that unlocks this entire puzzle, is a single powerful concept: personal philosophy. Now, when I use the word philosophy, I am not referring to the academic discipline studied in universities. I am referring to something far more practical, far more personal. Your personal philosophy is the sum total of everything you know, and how you have decided to process that knowledge. It is the filter through which you view the world. It is the operating system running in the background of your mind, dictating every choice, every decision, and every action you take. It is your personal philosophy that determines how you set your sail. When the winds of economic difficulty blow, one person's philosophy says, "This is a disaster. I must retreat, protect what I have, and wait for the storm to pass." Another person's philosophy says, "Within every crisis lies an opportunity. I must be alert, learn new skills, and find a way to provide unique value in this new environment." Same wind, different philosophy. Different set of the sail, and a profoundly different destination. This personal philosophy is not something we are born with. It is something we acquire. It is a mosaic assembled piece by piece over the course of our lives. It is assembled from the books we read or fail to read. It is assembled from the conversations we have, the people we associate with, the ideas we choose to entertain. It is assembled from the way we interpret our failures and the way we celebrate our successes. Every single day, you are adding a piece to the mosaic of your philosophy. The crucial question is, are you doing so consciously, or are you allowing the random debris of the world to form your philosophy by default? Let us use another analogy. Think of your life as a magnificent structure that you are building. Your health, your finances, your relationships, your career, these are the rooms within this structure. Before any great building is ever constructed, what is the first indispensable requirement? It is the blueprint, the architectural plan. A master architect spends a great deal of time and energy designing the blueprint. They consider every angle, every stress point, every material, every connection. They know that any flaw in the blueprint will inevitably manifest as a weakness in the final structure, regardless of how skilled the builders are or how fine the materials may be. Your personal philosophy is the blueprint for your life. If your life's blueprint contains flawed thinking, such as the idea that someone else is responsible for your happiness, or that small neglects do not matter, or that learning stops when school ends, then you will build a flawed structure. You can work as hard as you wish, but you will be diligently executing a faulty plan. The result is predetermined. It will be a life of compromise, of weakness, of eventual collapse under the inevitable pressures of existence. Conversely, if you take the time to design a powerful, sound, and virtuous blueprint, a philosophy built on principles of integrity, growth, and responsibility, you provide the foundation for a magnificent life. When you have a sound blueprint, your hard work is multiplied, your efforts are directed, your energy is focused. You are no longer just a laborer in your own life. You have become the architect. This is the most important work you will ever do. To work on your philosophy, to refine your blueprint, is to work on the very cause of your results. Most people spend their lives dealing with effects. They are constantly trying to fix the cracks in the walls of their financial house or patch the leaks in the roof of their relationships. The wise person ignores the cracks for a moment and goes straight to the blueprint. They ask, what thinking is causing this result? And they fix it at the source. So that is our purpose today. Our purpose is to unroll the blueprints of our lives and begin the process of disciplined, intelligent redesign. We are here to learn how to become master architects. To do that, we will not be studying 1,000 different techniques or 100 fleeting hacks. We will be studying the timeless, foundational principles upon which all great lives are built. I call them the 7 pillars of a life well lived. These are not 7 suggestions. They are 7 load-bearing columns. Just like in a classical building, if even one of these pillars is weak or missing, the integrity of the entire structure is compromised. You cannot, for instance, have a strong pillar of action if it is resting on a weak foundation of ownership. You cannot have a strong pillar of long-term thinking if it is not supported by the pillar of discipline. They are all interconnected. They work in harmony. Our study today will be a methodical examination of each of these 7 pillars. We will define them. We will explore why they are essential. And most importantly, we will discuss how to begin strengthening each one in your own life starting today. This will require your full attention. It will require an honest look at your current blueprint. And it will require a commitment from you to you that you are ready to move from being a passive resident in the house of your life to becoming its chief architect and master builder. The quality of the rest of your life will be a direct reflection of the quality of your personal philosophy. The rewards for engaging in this work are not small, they are total. A better philosophy leads to better choices. Better choices lead to better actions. Better actions lead to better results. And better results lead to a completely transformed life. So, I invite you now to set aside the distractions, silence the noise of the outside world and the noise of your own busy mind. Prepare to engage in a serious study of the most important subject you will ever undertake, the design and construction of an extraordinary life. Let us pick up our tools. Let us unroll the blueprints. Our study of the first pillar, the philosophy of ownership, begins now. We have now established the foundational premise of our entire study, that the quality of one's life is a direct reflection of the quality of one's personal philosophy. We have accepted that we are the architects and our philosophy is the blueprint. With this understanding, we arrive at the cornerstone. We arrive at the very first pillar upon which the entire structure of a well-lived life must rest. Without this pillar firmly in place, all other efforts, no matter how sincere, no matter how intense, will eventually crumble. This is the philosophy of ownership. Let us begin by defining our terms with precision, for clarity is the beginning of power. When I speak of ownership, I am not merely speaking of responsibility in its common passive sense. Responsibility is often interpreted as acknowledging your role in a past event, particularly a failure. Ownership is something far more profound. It is active, it is forward-looking, and it is total. Ownership is the unwavering recognition that you are the primary creative force in your own life. It is the deep internal acceptance that you are at cause, not at effect. It is the final abdication of the role of the victim and the full embrace of the role of the creator. To take ownership is to declare, not with arrogance, but with a quiet and resolute certainty, my life, my results, my future, these are my domain. The ultimate accountability stops with me. Now, this philosophy is simple to state, but it is not simple to live. In fact, it runs contrary to one of the most powerful and seductive narratives available to human beings, the narrative of the victim. The victim narrative is a story, a very compelling story, that a person tells themselves to explain their lack of progress. The plot of this story is always the same. I am a good, well-intentioned person who would be succeeding, but. And what follows the but is the list of villains. The government, the economy, the company, the unfair boss, the unsupportive spouse, the difficult childhood, the lack of opportunities, the winds of fate. The language of the victim is the language of blame. Blame is the transfer of accountability. It is the act of pointing a finger outward to explain a deficit that exists inward. It is an emotional release, but it is a release that comes at a catastrophic cost. And what is that cost? The cost is your power. Every time you blame an external factor for your internal condition, you are literally giving away your power to change that condition. If the economy is the reason you are not wealthy, then you must wait for the economy to change before you can become wealthy. You have made yourself helpless. If your boss is the reason you are unhappy at work, then you must wait for your boss to change or leave before you can be happy. You have chained your emotional well-being to the behavior of another person. This is the fundamental trade-off. The victim gets the temporary comfort of not being at fault, but pays for it with a lifetime of powerlessness. The person of ownership accepts the temporary discomfort of being fully accountable, and in return gains a lifetime of power and agency. A close cousin to the language of blame is the language of excuses. An excuse is a story you tell yourself to justify inaction. It is a reason you have accepted as a valid barrier. I would start a business, but I don't have the capital. I would get in shape, but I don't have the time. I would write the book, but I'm not feeling inspired. Let us be brutally honest with ourselves in this room. These are not reasons. They are well-dressed excuses. History is overflowing with stories of individuals who started with no capital. The day has 24 hours for everyone. The issue is not a lack of time, but a lack of priority. Inspiration does not precede action. It is the child of action. A person of ownership does not deal in excuses. They deal in resourcefulness. They do not ask, what am I lacking? They ask, what do I have, and how can I leverage it? They see constraints not as barriers, but as creative challenges. They understand that it is not the absence of resources, but the absence of resourcefulness that is the true determining factor. So, why? Why is the victim narrative so incredibly seductive? If it is so disempowering, why do so many people unconsciously choose it? The reason is that the victim narrative offers a powerful psychological shield. It protects the ego from the two things it fears most, failure and judgment. If you never truly try because the circumstances aren't right, then you can never truly fail. You can always preserve the comforting illusion of your own potential. If only things had been different. You can tell yourself, I would have been great. To take ownership is to step out from behind that shield. It is to make yourself vulnerable. It is to say, I am going to attempt this. I am putting my effort on the line. And if I fail, the result is mine. This takes immense courage. It is the defining act of emotional maturity. It is the moment a person stops being a child, waiting for the world to be fair, and becomes an adult, committed to creating results regardless of fairness. The transition from a victim mentality to an ownership mentality is the single most important journey in personal development. So how do we make this journey? We begin by changing our internal questions. The victim asks, why is this happening to me? This question presupposes that the person is a passive recipient of life's events. It is a question that leads to resentment and self-pity. The owner asks a different set of questions. They ask, what is my role in creating this situation? What is this situation here to teach me? Given these circumstances, what is the most resourceful and intelligent action I can take right now? What can I do to ensure this does not happen again? Do you feel the power in those questions? They shift the locus of control from the outside world to your inner world. They transform you from a passive observer into an active participant. Let us apply this philosophy to the key areas of life. Consider your finances. The victim says, taxes are too high. The cost of living is out of control. My job doesn't pay me what I'm worth. The story is one of external forces controlling their financial destiny. The owner says, my income is currently at this level. What skills can I acquire to become more valuable to the marketplace? What are my spending habits? And how can I manage my resources more effectively? How can I create additional streams of income? How can I learn the principles of investing to make my money work for me? The owner sees their financial life not as a paycheck they receive, but as an enterprise they must manage. Consider your health and well-being. The victim says, I have bad genetics. I don't have time to exercise. Healthy food is too expensive. The story is one of helplessness in the face of biology and circumstance. The owner says, this is the body I have been given. It is my responsibility to be a good steward of it. How can I find 30 minutes today for a walk? What is one unhealthy food I can replace with a healthier option this week? How can I educate myself on the principles of nutrition and fitness? The owner treats their body not as a genetic lottery ticket, but as a precious, non-renewable asset entrusted to their care. Consider your relationships. The victim says, my spouse doesn't understand me. My friends are not supportive. People always let me down. The story is one of being a blameless party in a world of difficult people. The owner says, "What is the quality of communication I am bringing to this relationship? Am I being the kind of spouse, the kind of friend, the kind of colleague that I would wish to have? What unresolved issues or behaviors am I contributing to this dynamic? How can I lead by example to create the kind of relationship I desire?" The owner understands that the quality of any relationship is a reflection of the quality of their own contribution to it. In every area, the pattern is the same. The victim focuses on what they cannot control, the external. The owner focuses on what they can control, their own philosophy, their own attitude, and their own actions. Taking ownership does not mean you control everything. It does not mean that external events do not happen. The storm is real. The economic downturn is real. The actions of other people are real. Ownership is not about controlling the world. It is about controlling your response. It is the profound understanding that while you cannot always choose your circumstances, you can always choose your response. And in that power of response lies your freedom and your path to growth. When you fully embrace the philosophy of ownership, your life begins to change in remarkable ways. First, you stop waiting. You stop waiting for the right moment, for permission, for someone to discover you. You realize that the starting gun for your life was fired the day you were born, and you have been in the race ever since. You become a person of initiative. Second, you become a student of failure. Failure is no longer a source of shame. It is a source of data. When a result is not what you desired, you do not blame, you analyze. What was my approach? What did I miss? What is the lesson here? How can I adjust my strategy for the next attempt? Failure becomes your most valuable tutor on the path to success. Third, you build unshakable self-respect. Every time you choose ownership over blame, every time you choose action over excuses, you cast a vote for yourself. You prove to yourself that you are not a leaf in the wind, but the captain of your ship. This internal validation is worth more than all the external praise in the world. It becomes the engine of your confidence. This is the foundational pillar. It is the starting point. Before you can pursue relentless self-improvement, you must first believe that you are worth improving and that the effort is your own. Before you can commit to disciplined action, you must first accept that your actions are the cause of your results. Every other pillar we will discuss today rests upon this one. So I ask you to reflect honestly and deeply. Where in your life have you been telling a victim story? Where have you been leasing out the power over your own happiness and success to external forces? Identify one area, just one, and make the decision right now to reclaim your sovereignty. To fire the manager of your life who has been blaming others, and to hire a new one yourself who operates from a philosophy of 100% ownership. This is the first, most difficult, and most rewarding step in the journey of architecting a life of your own design. It is the moment you stop being a passenger and step into the driver's seat. It is the moment you take back the pen. Your life is an epic story waiting to be written, and the author is you. In our last discussion, we laid the cornerstone of our entire philosophy, the pillar of ownership. We made the courageous decision to move from a position of effect to a position of cause, to reclaim our sovereignty, and to accept that we are the architects of our own lives. This acceptance, as profound as it is, naturally leads to a critical and immediate question. If I am indeed the architect, what is the quality of my skill? If my life is the structure I am building, what is the quality of the materials I am using? And this brings us directly to the second great pillar, the pillar that provides the substance and the material for the life we wish to build. This is the pillar of the unceasing pursuit of self-improvement. Let us begin with one of the most transformative ideas ever shared with me. It is a simple sentence that, should you choose to adopt it as a personal mantra, will have a more profound impact on your financial, personal, and spiritual well-being than any other. The idea is this: you must work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Now, on the surface, this statement seems counterintuitive. We live in a society that glorifies the grind, the hustle, the sheer number of hours poured into our profession. We are taught from a young age to work hard at our job, to be diligent, to be productive, and these are, without question, admirable qualities. But here is the distinction that changes the game entirely. Working hard at your job makes you a living, which is a necessity. But working hard on yourself makes you a fortune, which is a possibility. And I do not simply mean a financial fortune, but a fortune of experience, of wisdom, of character, of joy. You see, the marketplace, whether it is your employer or your customers, does not pay you for your time. This is a common misconception. It pays you for the value you bring to that time. If you wish to increase your income, you cannot simply work longer hours indefinitely. The day only has 24 of them. The only sustainable path to increasing your income is to increase your value. And how do you increase your value? You do not become more valuable by accident. You do not become more valuable through wishful thinking. You become more valuable through a conscious, deliberate, and daily process of self-improvement. Life does not give you what you want. It rewards you for what you have become. Let me repeat that. Life does not give you what you want. It rewards you for who you are. If you want to have more, you must first be more. The outer world of your results will always be a mirror reflection of the inner world of your character, your skills, and your personal philosophy. Do not chase the success. Focus on your personal growth, and success will be attracted to you. It will pursue you. So the logical question becomes how? How does one engage in this unceasing pursuit? It is not a mystical process. It is a practical discipline that can be broken down into tangible areas of focus. Let us think of this as building your personal university, a curriculum for which you are both the student and the dean. This curriculum has 3 primary departments. The first department is the formal study. This is where you intentionally acquire knowledge. The tragedy of the modern age is that we are drowning in information while starving for wisdom. The formal study is about filtering the noise and deliberately consuming knowledge that empowers you. The primary vehicle for this study is the book. A book is a miracle. It is the opportunity to have a conversation with the greatest minds in history for a few dollars. Every problem you are currently facing in your finances, your relationships, your health, your business, has almost certainly been solved by someone else who was kind enough to write down the solution in a book. To not take advantage of this is a choice to remain ignorant. You must become a dedicated curator of your own library. Your library is a reflection of your ambition. It is a testament to your commitment to growth. If a stranger were to walk into your home and see your collection of books, what would it tell them about your future? Build a library that your future self would be proud of. Read about leadership, about communication, about history, about finance, about human nature. Become a student of life. Beyond books, the formal study involves seeking out mentors. Success leaves clues. Find individuals who have achieved the results you desire and study them with the intensity of a scholar. If you can, build relationships with them. But if you cannot, you can still be their student. Read their interviews. Study their biographies. Understand their thinking, their habits, their philosophy. You must learn to compress decades into days by learning from the experience of others. Do not insist on learning everything the hard way through your own mistakes. Life is too short. The second department in your personal university is the personal laboratory. This is where knowledge is converted into understanding. It is one thing to read a principle in a book. It is another thing entirely to test it in the laboratory of your own life. The most important tool in this laboratory is your journal. A journal is not a diary of events. A journal is a place to capture ideas, to wrestle with questions, to reflect on your experiences, and to chart your progress. Do not trust your memory. It is a fickle and unreliable partner. When you have an idea that excites you, write it down. When you experience a failure, do not just move on. Go to your journal and dissect it. What went wrong? What was my role? What is the lesson? How will I apply this lesson going forward? Your journal is where you have a conversation with yourself. It is where you convert the raw material of your life into the processed wisdom that becomes your philosophy. Over the years, your collection of journals will become your most valuable personal asset, a multi-volume encyclopedia of your own growth. The personal laboratory is also where you learn to embrace discomfort. Growth and comfort are mutually exclusive. You cannot have both. The moment you settle into a comfortable routine, you have stopped growing. Your comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. The pursuit of self-improvement requires a deliberate and strategic expansion of your comfort zone. This means voluntarily taking on challenges that stretch you. It means having the difficult conversations you have been avoiding. It means learning the new skill that feels intimidating. It means speaking up when you would rather stay silent. Every time you step into discomfort, you are exercising a muscle. The fear you feel is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that you are at the edge of your current capabilities, which is precisely where growth occurs. You must learn to seek out what I call intelligent struggle. The third department of your curriculum is the physical foundation. This is perhaps the most overlooked, yet most critical aspect of self-improvement. You can have the most brilliant mind and the most ambitious spirit, but if they are housed in a body that is tired and unhealthy, your potential will be severely limited. Your health is not a secondary concern. It is the platform upon which all of your ambitions are built. Your energy, your mental clarity, your resilience, your emotional stability, all are profoundly influenced by the physical state of your body. To neglect your physical well-being is an act of self-sabotage. It is like a master carpenter insisting on working with dull, broken tools. You would never do that in your profession, so why would you do it with the very instrument of your life? This does not require an extreme or obsessive regimen. It requires a commitment to fundamental principles. The principle of nutrition, understanding that food is fuel, not just entertainment. The principle of movement, recognizing that the human body was designed to move and that daily activity is non-negotiable. The principle of rest, respecting that recovery is when growth actually happens, and that adequate sleep is a critical performance tool, not a luxury. To commit to the unceasing pursuit of self-improvement is to see these three departments, the formal study, the personal laboratory, and the physical foundation, not as separate activities, but as an integrated lifestyle. It is a lifestyle where you are always a student. You are never done. You never arrive. The person who believes they have nothing left to learn has already begun their decline. The world is in a constant state of flux. To stop learning is not to stand still, it is to be left behind. This pursuit changes your very identity. You no longer see yourself as a finished product, but as a work in process. This is an incredibly liberating shift. It means that your current results are not your final destination. Your current weaknesses are not a life sentence. They are simply the current state of your development, and you have the power to influence that development starting today. When you truly commit to this pillar, you will notice a change in your perception of time. You will no longer see idle moments as opportunities to escape into distraction. You will see them as opportunities to invest. The 10 minutes waiting in line become an opportunity to listen to an educational podcast. The commute to work becomes your mobile classroom. You begin to understand that every moment can be leveraged in the service of your growth. This is the ultimate form of taking ownership. You are not just taking ownership of your results, you are taking ownership of the person who produces those results. You are accepting the profound responsibility of shaping yourself, of molding your character, of sharpening your mind, and of tending to your spirit. This is the work that precedes all great accomplishment. It is the quiet, often invisible, daily discipline of becoming more. And as you become more, you will find, as if by magic, that life begins to offer you more. More opportunity, more success, more fulfillment. But it is not magic. It is the law. It is the law that states that your life is a reflection of who you have become. So, work on your job and you will make a living. But work on yourself and you will build a life. We have journeyed through the first two foundational pillars of a life well lived. With the pillar of ownership, we claimed our authority as the architects of our destiny. With the pillar of self-improvement, we committed to gathering the finest materials, the knowledge, skills, and character to build a magnificent life. We have unrolled the blueprint. We have assembled the materials. But now we arrive at the moment of truth. We arrive at the pillar that separates the dreamer from the doer, the philosopher from the builder. This is the pillar that breathes life into our intentions. This is the pillar of the discipline of action. There exists in the world a great and tragic divide. It is not the divide between the rich and the poor, or the educated and the uneducated. It is the chasm between knowing and doing. We can call it the knowing-doing gap. And it is within this chasm that the vast majority of human potential lies dormant, waiting for a bridge that is never built. We live in an age where the answers to nearly any question are at our fingertips. We know we should eat healthier. We know we should save more than we spend. We know we should exercise. We know we should read the books and make the calls and start the project we know. But knowing is not enough. Knowledge without application is merely a form of intellectual entertainment. It is potential energy stored but never released. Action is the conduit. Action is the process by which the invisible energy of your philosophy is converted into the visible results of your life. Every tangible thing you see in the world, every building, every business, every work of art was once just an idea. It was action and action alone that served as the midwife for its birth into reality. If action is so critical, why is it so difficult? We must begin our study by identifying the enemies of action, the powerful forces that keep us trapped on the knowing side of the chasm. The first and most formidable enemy is the tyranny of feelings. We have been sold a great misconception that in order to act, we must first feel like acting. We wait for the feeling of motivation. We wait for the feeling of inspiration. We wait until we feel ready. We consult our emotional state as if it were a wise oracle telling us whether today is a day for progress or a day for procrastination. Let me be unequivocally clear. Your feelings are among the most unreliable advisors you could possibly consult for the building of a life. Feelings are fickle. They are temporary. They are chemical weather patterns influenced by how you slept, what you ate, a passing comment, or the barometric pressure. To predicate your actions upon the ever-changing tides of your emotions is to build your life's work on quicksand. The amateur creates when they feel inspired. The professional creates on a schedule. The amateur goes to the gym when they feel energized. The professional goes to the gym because it is Tuesday. Do you see the distinction? The amateur is a slave to their feelings. The professional is a master of their habits. You do not need to feel like it. You just need to do it. The great secret is that action is not the byproduct of motivation. Motivation is the byproduct of action. Take the first step, however small, and the feeling of motivation will often meet you along the way. But it will almost never meet you while you are sitting on the couch waiting for it. The second enemy of action is the illusion of perfectionism. Perfectionism presents itself as a noble pursuit of high standards. But in practice, it is most often a sophisticated, high-minded form of fear. It is the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of not being good enough, all dressed up in a tuxedo. The perfectionist says, I cannot start my business until I have the perfect business plan. I cannot write the first chapter until I know the perfect ending. I cannot launch the website until every single detail is flawless. And so they spend their days, their weeks, their years in a state of perpetual preparation, forever polishing a plan for a journey they never begin. You must understand this. Clarity does not precede action. Clarity follows action. You do not figure everything out and then act. You act, and in the process of acting, you figure things out. You take a step, the path reveals itself. You make a move, you get feedback from the market, from reality, from your own experience, then you adjust. You course correct. Action is the ultimate antidote to ambiguity. If you are unsure of the next 10 steps, do not stand still. Take one step. The view from that new vantage point will show you the next. The person who insists on seeing the entire staircase before taking the first step will spend their life in the lobby. The third enemy of action is the paralysis of overanalysis. This is a particular danger for those who have embraced our second pillar of self-improvement. It is the trap of falling in love with learning for its own sake without ever progressing to application. It is the person who has read every book on investing but has never bought a single share of stock. The person who has attended every seminar on leadership but has never led. Knowledge without action is the weight that sinks the ship. It creates the illusion of progress without any actual movement. You feel as though you are working on your goals because you are learning about them, but in reality, you are avoiding the risk and discomfort of actually doing them. So, if these are the enemies, our feelings, our perfectionism, our tendency to overanalyze, what is the weapon with which we defeat them? The weapon is discipline. Discipline is the master key to a life of achievement. It is the bridge that closes the knowing-doing gap, but we must redefine what discipline means. For many, the word carries a negative connotation of punishment, of deprivation, of joyless self-denial. This is a misunderstanding. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is the highest form of self-love. It is the ability to choose between what you want now and what you want most. The momentary pleasure of hitting the snooze button versus the long-term reward of a productive morning. The fleeting satisfaction of an impulse purchase versus the profound security of financial freedom. Discipline is the act of being a good ancestor to your future self. And here is the crucial insight. Discipline is not something you have. It is not a personality trait you are born with. Discipline is a muscle. Like any muscle, it is weak if left unused. But it can be strengthened day by day through consistent exercise. You would not go to the gym on your first day and attempt to lift the heaviest weight. You would start with something small, something manageable. You build strength incrementally. So it is with the muscle of discipline. You do not start by vowing to transform your entire life overnight. You start by making one small promise to yourself and then keeping it. You promise to wake up 15 minutes earlier, and you do it. You promise to read for 10 minutes before bed, and you do it. You promise to make one difficult phone call you have been avoiding, and you do it. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, you perform one repetition. You strengthen the muscle. Your self-respect grows. Your confidence in your ability to follow through expands, and soon the promise that once felt difficult becomes easy. So you increase the weight. This leads us to a remarkable philosophy, a masterclass in disciplined action that we can observe in nature. It is a philosophy I call the ant philosophy. If you study the ant, you will find a creature that has mastered the art of disciplined action, free from the tyranny of feelings or the illusion of perfectionism. The ant's philosophy can be broken down into 4 simple yet profound principles. First, ants never quit. If you place an obstacle in an ant's path, it will not stand there and lament its fate. It will not form a committee to analyze the problem. It will immediately begin to seek an alternative. It will try to go over, it will try to go under, it will try to go around, it will search and search for another way until it finds one. What a powerful metaphor for our own lives. When we encounter an obstacle, is our first instinct to give up, or is it to relentlessly search for another path? Second, ants think winter all summer. In the midst of abundance, when the sun is shining and food is plentiful, the ant does not indulge in complacency. It understands that seasons change. It operates with a sense of intelligent urgency, diligently gathering and storing resources in preparation for the inevitable lean times ahead. It practices the discipline of foresight. Are we doing the same? Or are we consuming everything in our summer with no thought for the coming winter? Third, ants think summer all winter. In the depths of winter, huddled in their colony, the ant does not despair. It operates on the certainty that spring will come again. It is a model of optimism and faith in the cycles of life. It reminds us that difficult times are not permanent, they are a season. And our job during the winter of our lives is to stay prepared, stay positive, and be ready to emerge when the spring of opportunity returns. And the fourth and final principle of the ant philosophy is perhaps the most important. The question is, how much will an ant gather during the summer? The answer, all that it possibly can. Not the bare minimum, not just enough to get by. All that it possibly can. It is a commitment to maximum effort, to fulfilling its absolute potential. This philosophy, relentless, prepared, optimistic, and committed to maximum effort, is the very essence of disciplined action. When you begin to live this way, when you consistently exercise the muscle of discipline, something extraordinary begins to happen. You create momentum. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in the universe, and it applies as much to human achievement as it does to physics. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. The beginning of any new endeavor is always the hardest part. Making the first sales call, writing the first paragraph, doing the first workout. This is the point of maximum inertia. It requires the greatest amount of activation energy, And this is why the majority of people never start. But once you take that first disciplined action, and then the second, and then the third, you begin to build momentum. It is like pushing a giant, heavy flywheel. The first few rotations are agonizingly difficult. You push with all your might, and it barely moves. It feels useless. This is the point where discipline, not motivation, is all you have. But you keep pushing day after day, and then you notice a change. The flywheel becomes a little easier to turn. It completes one rotation, then two. It begins to store energy. And after a period of consistent, disciplined effort, a magical tipping point is reached. The flywheel's own weight begins to work for you. Its momentum now carries it forward, and it requires far less effort to keep it spinning at an incredible speed. This is the reality of success. The beginning is a grind. The middle is a process. But the end is a glorious ride on the power of the momentum you have built. Success begets success. Action begets more action. Your job is not to build a perfect life overnight. Your job is to take the one small, disciplined action that is in front of you right now, to make the call, to write the page, to keep the promise, to push the flywheel just once, and then to have the discipline to show up and do it again tomorrow. The bridge across the knowing-doing gap is not built with a single heroic leap. It is built brick by brick with the mortar of daily discipline. Lay the first brick today. We are now at the halfway point of our study. We have discussed ownership, self-improvement, and action. These are powerful concepts. And before we continue to the final four pillars, I would invite you to pause for a moment of reflection. Of the three pillars we have discussed so far, which one speaks to you the most right now? Which one, if you were to focus on it for the next 30 days, would create the most significant change in your life? Take a moment to leave a comment below. I read these comments, and it is fascinating to see which principles resonate. It is a way for us to learn together. And if you are finding value in this study, if you believe that these are the kinds of conversations we ought to be having, I would invite you to subscribe to this channel. This is not merely a channel, it is a classroom for life. By subscribing, you are making a commitment to continue this journey of learning with us. We appreciate your commitment. Now, let us continue with our fourth pillar. We have journeyed through a powerful sequence of ideas. We began by claiming our sovereignty with the pillar of ownership. We then committed to enhancing our value with the pillar of self-improvement. And most recently, we explored the engine of all results, the pillar of disciplined action. We have established the who, the what, and the how. But now we must address the when. We must elevate our perspective from the immediate battlefield of daily tasks to the grand strategy of a lifetime. We must engage with the dimension that gives all our efforts meaning and context, the dimension of time. This brings us to our fourth and perhaps most challenging pillar in the modern age. This is the pillar of the perspective of the long view. We live in a world that is engaged in a full-scale assault on this very idea. Every aspect of our culture conspires to shrink our time horizon, to pull our focus ever closer to the immediate present. We are living under what I call the tyranny of the now. Instant notifications, instant news cycles, instant delivery, instant gratification. The message, whispered from 1,000 different sources every day, is that the only thing that matters is this very moment. Pleasure now, comfort now, reward now. This relentless focus on the immediate is the single greatest saboteur of a life of substance. Why? Because everything of true and lasting value, a strong character, a deep expertise, financial independence, a loving family, a legacy of contribution, is not built in a moment. It is grown over time. It is the product of decisions made today for the benefit of a tomorrow that may be years or even decades away. To adopt the perspective of the long view is to declare your independence from this tyranny. It is a conscious act of rebellion against the short-term thinking that keeps so many people trapped in cycles of mediocrity. It is the decision to stop being a mere consumer of moments and to start becoming an architect of decades. To truly understand this, we need a model, a metaphor to help us navigate the complexities of time. The most powerful model I have ever encountered comes not from the world of business or finance, but from the ancient and timeless wisdom of the farmer. We must learn to understand and live by the law of the seasons. Life, like the earth, moves in cycles and seasons. Each season has a unique purpose, a unique set of challenges, and a unique set of required actions. The person who tries to perform autumn's work in the spring is a fool. The person who expects a spring harvest in the middle of winter will starve. Wisdom is the ability to recognize which season you are in and to act accordingly. Let us examine these seasons. First, there is spring. Spring is the season of opportunity. It is the time for planting. This is when the soil of your life is fertile, when new ideas emerge, when new relationships begin, when new ventures are possible. In the spring of your life, perhaps your youth, or the beginning of a new career, or the start of a new project, the primary discipline is labor. It is the season for intense, focused action. You must seize the opportunity of the spring. You cannot be lazy in the spring. You cannot procrastinate in the spring. You must be willing to put the seed in the ground. The seed could be the investment of capital, the enrollment in a difficult course, the start of a new health regimen, the initiation of a courageous conversation. It is the act of beginning. The person who dallies and delays through their spring will have nothing to tend to in the summer and will face a barren autumn. Following spring comes summer. Summer is the season of cultivation and protection. This is a season of persistent, patient effort. Once you have planted your seeds, the work is not over. It has just begun in a new form. In the summer, you must pull the weeds. The weeds are the distractions, the bad habits, the negative associations, the doubts that threaten to choke out your budding efforts. This requires vigilance and discipline. In the summer, you must also fertilize and water. You must nurture your projects, your skills, your relationships. This is the work of self-improvement, of consistent practice, of showing up day after day, even when the immediate results are not yet visible. Summer is also the season where you must defend your garden against the pests. The pests are the critics, the cynics, the naysayers. There will always be those who tell you your crop will fail. You must have the strength of conviction to protect your vision during this vulnerable stage of growth. Summer is often the longest and most challenging season. It is where your character and your commitment are tested. If you have labored diligently in the spring and tended faithfully in the summer, the law dictates what must follow, and that is autumn. Autumn is the season of harvest. It is the season of reward. This is when the results of your past efforts manifest. The business becomes profitable, the skill is mastered, the relationship blossoms, the financial independence is achieved. It is a season for gratitude and for celebration. It is a time to enjoy the fruits of your labor. However, the wise person also understands that autumn is a season for responsibility. You must harvest the crop fully. You must take the profits. You must consolidate the gains. You do not leave the reward sitting in the field. And you must have the wisdom to set aside a portion of the harvest in preparation for what you know is coming next. Because after autumn, inevitably comes winter. Winter is a season for all of us. There will be winters of economic recession. There will be winters of personal loss. There will be winters of health challenges. There will be winters of spiritual doubt. Winter is the season of survival, of consolidation, and of reflection. The person who has squandered their spring, summer, and autumn has every reason to fear the winter. For them, it is a time of scarcity and regret. But for the wise architect of their life, winter is not a season to be feared. It is a season to be used. Winter is the time to go inside. It is the time to strengthen your roots. It is the time to read the books, to deepen your philosophy, to review your journals, and to plan for the next spring. It is a season of renewal. It is a time to rest, to heal, and to grow stronger in the quiet depths of your character. The person who uses their winters well emerges more powerful, more resilient, and more prepared than ever for the next cycle of opportunity. This is the law. You cannot change the seasons, but you can change yourself. You can learn to leverage the unique opportunity of each season. This is the essence of the long view. So how do we apply this? We begin by training ourselves to become time architects instead of time spenders. A time spender makes decisions based on the immediate desires of their present self. What do I feel like doing right now? A time architect makes decisions based on the long-term vision of their future self. They ask a different question. Will the action I am about to take serve the person I wish to become in 5, 10, or 20 years? To make this practical, you must develop a clear vision of that future self. Who is that person? What is their character? What are their skills? What does their life look like? The clearer that vision becomes, the easier it is to make daily decisions. The vision of your future self becomes the ultimate filter for your present actions. You begin to understand that every small choice to save or to spend, to exercise or to rest, to read or to scroll is a vote cast for or against that future person. Adopting the long view also requires developing a new relationship with patience. We have been taught that patience is a passive act of waiting. This is incorrect. True patience is an active, dynamic quality. It is not waiting, it is working while you wait. It is the farmer in the summer who patiently tends the crop, knowing that the harvest is not yet due, but that the work of today is essential for its eventual arrival. Patience is the ability to maintain a positive and persistent attitude while the law of compounding is at work. It is the understanding that the greatest rewards are on a time delay. The oak tree's growth is invisible day to day, but its power is undeniable over decades. Your personal growth operates under the same law. You must have the faith and the foresight to keep watering the seed long before you see the sprout. The perspective of the long view is the wisdom that gives context to all the other pillars. It provides the why for the discomfort of disciplined action. Why push through when you don't feel like it? Because you are in your spring and the future harvest depends on it. It provides the motivation for the unceasing pursuit of self-improvement. Why read the book and learn the skill? Because the winter is coming and you must strengthen your roots. It reinforces the philosophy of ownership, because if you are truly the architect of your life, you must think like an architect planning for the entire life cycle of the structure, not just today's work. This is not a call to sacrifice all present joy for some distant future. The wise person learns to find joy in the process itself, the joy of planting in the spring, the joy of tending in the summer, the joy of a well-earned rest in the winter. The long view does not diminish the present. It enriches it. By infusing our present actions with a sense of profound meaning and purpose. Your task is to lift your gaze from the immediate demands of the day and look out toward the horizon of your life. Ask yourself, what season am I in right now? In my career, in my finances, in my personal life? And what is the primary work of this season? Am I acting in accordance with the season's demands? Become a student of the seasons. Become an architect of your time. Make decisions today that your future self will rise up and thank you for. This is the perspective that separates the amateur from the master. It is the wisdom that transforms effort into legacy. We have journeyed far in our study of life architecture. We have laid the foundation of ownership, gathered the materials through self-improvement, applied our energy through disciplined action, and set our course with the perspective of the long view. We have established a destination, and we have begun to build. But every builder, every architect, every long-distance traveler knows that the journey is not a straight line. It is fraught with challenges. There will be days of clear skies and favorable winds, and there will be days of torrential rain and howling gales. And this brings us to a crucial internal examination. It brings us to the pillar that governs your consistency. It addresses the force that will carry you through the inevitable storms when the initial excitement of the journey has faded. Today, we will dissect the two great competing forces within us. This is the pillar of the choice of discipline over motivation. Every single day, a debate takes place in the forum of your mind. It is a debate between two powerful voices. The first voice is that of your higher self, the architect. This voice speaks of your long-term vision, your commitments, your aspirations. It is the voice that sets the goals and understands the necessity of the long view. The second voice is that of your momentary self, the creature of impulse. This voice speaks of immediate comfort, of avoiding difficulty, of instant gratification. It is the voice that is tired, bored, hungry, or distracted. The outcome of your life is determined by which of these two voices you consistently choose to obey. To help us make this choice wisely, we must understand the two primary allies these voices employ, motivation and discipline. And you must choose which of these allies you will rely on to build your life. Let us begin by dissecting the first and by far the more popular of these forces, motivation. Motivation is a wonderful feeling. It is a surge of energy, a wave of inspiration. It is the emotional fuel that can launch great endeavors. When you feel motivated, the work feels effortless. The challenges seem smaller. The vision of your future feels bright and attainable. It is a powerful and intoxicating state. We seek it out. We watch videos, listen to speeches, and attend seminars, all in the hope of capturing this lightning in a bottle, and for a short time it works. Motivation is the great starter. It is the spark that ignites the engine. But here is the profound and often painful truth. To rely on motivation as your primary strategy for success is to build your life on a foundation of sand. Why? Because motivation, by its very nature, possesses three fundamental and fatal flaws. First, motivation is fundamentally external. It often requires an outside trigger, a powerful movie, a moving song, a conversation with a mentor, the start of a new year. You get a temporary charge from this external source. But what happens when the movie ends? What happens when the music stops? What happens when it is March and the New Year's resolutions have faded into memory? The external source is gone, and with it the emotional charge it provided. You are left waiting for the next hit, the next external spark to get you going again. Second, motivation is temporary. It is a feeling, an emotion, and like all feelings, it is transient. No one, not the most successful person on this planet, feels motivated all the time. Happiness, sadness, anger, motivation, these are all passing states. To build a strategy for life that requires you to be in a constant state of peak emotion is to set yourself up for inevitable failure. The amateur waits until they are in the right mood. The professional knows that the right mood is irrelevant. Third, motivation is diminishing. It is subject to the law of familiarity. The first time you hear a powerful message, it can change your life. The 10th time, it is a nice reminder. The 100th time, it is just background noise. The same external stimulus produces a weaker and weaker emotional response over time. You require a bigger and bigger hit to achieve the same level of motivation. It is a game of ever-decreasing returns. Think of motivation as a series of fireworks. They are spectacular. They are inspiring. They light up the night sky with a brilliant, breathtaking burst of energy. But they last for only a moment, and then you are plunged back into darkness, waiting for the next explosion. You cannot build a city with fireworks. You cannot heat your home or cook your food with fireworks. For the steady, consistent work of life, you need a different kind of fire. That fire is discipline. If motivation is the firework, discipline is the pilot light. It is a small, steady, internal flame that you yourself control. It is not spectacular. It is not always exciting, but it is reliable. It is always there, ready to ignite the furnace of your effort, regardless of the weather outside or the emotional storms within. Let us redefine discipline. We must rescue this word from its negative connotations. Discipline is not self-punishment. It is not a joyless existence of rigid denial. Discipline, in its highest form, is predecision. It is the act of making a choice once with the full power of your rational mind and long-term vision so that you do not have to remake that choice 100 times in moments of weakness or fatigue. You decide, once, I am a person who exercises 3 times a week. The decision is made. It is encoded into your blueprint. When Tuesday morning comes and your momentary self says, I'm tired, it's raining, let's skip it, there is no debate to be had, the debate is over. The decision was already made. You are simply executing a prior commitment. Discipline is the act of honoring the promises you have made to your most important constituent, your future self. Let us examine the anatomy of discipline, and you will see that its strengths are a perfect mirror to motivation's weaknesses. First, discipline is internal. It does not depend on a speech or a song. It is born from your own values, your own character, and your own commitments. It is a choice. And because it is a choice, it is always available to you at any moment. It is the assertion of your will over your whims. It is the ultimate expression of the pillar of ownership. Second, discipline is a skill. It is not a feeling. It is a capacity you build. This is why it is permanent when cultivated. A feeling comes and goes, but a skill, once learned and practiced, becomes a part of who you are. The more you practice the skill of discipline, the more disciplined you become. It is an identity you forge through action. Third, discipline is compounding. Unlike motivation, which diminishes, discipline grows stronger with use. We have spoken of it as a muscle. Every time you choose to act based on your commitment rather than your mood, you are performing a repetition. You are building the muscle of your will. The first time you force yourself to go to the gym when you are tired is incredibly difficult. The 100th time, it is simply what you do. It is your routine. It is who you are. Each act of discipline makes the next act of discipline easier. It creates a virtuous cycle of increasing personal power. So, how do we cultivate this muscle? How do we build this internal, permanent, compounding force in our lives? The process is logical and systematic. It begins with clarity of purpose. Discipline for the sake of discipline is drudgery. You must have a compelling reason. This is where the pillar of the long view is so critical. Your why is the fuel for your how. Why will you get up early? Why will you eat the healthy food? Why will you make the difficult call? Your answer must be tied to a vision of the future that is more compelling than the comfort of the present. Discipline is the servant of a great purpose. Next, you must design your system. Do not rely on raw willpower. Willpower is a finite resource that gets depleted throughout the day. The most disciplined people are not those with superhuman willpower. They are those who have designed intelligent systems that make discipline easier. They design their environment. They lay out their gym clothes the night before. They place the book they intend to read on their pillow. They remove the junk food from their house. They automate their savings. They reduce the friction for their desired actions and increase the friction for their undesired actions. They make discipline the path of least resistance. Then, you must embrace rituals and routines. A ritual is a behavior that you make automatic. The most powerful of these is a morning ritual. Win the first hour of the day, and you will win the day. By starting each day with a predetermined sequence of disciplined actions, hydration, movement, meditation, reading, planning, before the world has a chance to impose its agenda on you, you set a powerful tone. You remind yourself who is in charge. You cast the first vote of the day for your higher self. And finally, you must focus on the process, not the outcome. Learn to fall in love with the unglamorous daily work of laying the bricks. Do not be discouraged if the wall is not yet built. Instead, take your satisfaction from the simple fact that you showed up today and laid your brick perfectly. Track your actions. Keep a simple journal or a calendar where you check off the days you honored your commitments. This creates its own form of reward. You begin to take pride in your consistency, in your integrity to yourself. The streak becomes its own motivation. When you make this choice, when you choose to build your life on the bedrock of discipline rather than the sand of motivation, you discover the ultimate paradox. The world believes that discipline is a form of bondage. It believes that a disciplined life is a restricted, constrained, and limited life. The exact opposite is true. Discipline is the only true path to freedom. Think about it. The person who lacks financial discipline is not free. They are a slave to their debts, their bills, and their financial anxiety. The person who lacks health discipline is not free. They are a slave to their low energy, their physical ailments, and their medical limitations. The person who lacks the discipline of learning is not free. They are a slave to their own ignorance and their outdated skills. Discipline is what buys you options. Financial discipline buys you the freedom to choose your work, to weather a storm, to be generous. Health discipline buys you the freedom of movement, of vitality, of a long and active life. The discipline of action buys you the freedom of achievement and the power to shape your world. To choose discipline is to choose sovereignty. It is to choose to be governed by your own deliberate choices rather than by the fleeting whims of your moods or the pressures of your circumstances. It is the ultimate act of empowerment. So yes, motivation will visit you from time to time, and when it does, treat it as a welcome guest. Enjoy its energy, leverage its power, but do not build your house around it. Build your house on the unshakable foundation of your own commitment, your own integrity, your own choice. Choose the pilot light over the firework. Choose the rudder over the wind. Choose discipline. And in doing so, you will be choosing freedom. In our journey through the pillars of a well-lived life, we have built a formidable structure of personal philosophy. We have laid the foundation of ownership. We have gathered the materials of self-improvement. We have ignited the engine of disciplined action. We have set our course with the perspective of the long view, and we have chosen the reliable ally of discipline over the fleeting feelings of motivation. We have, in essence, designed a powerful vehicle and pointed it toward a worthy destination. But even the most powerful vehicle is useless if its energy is dissipated in 1,000 different directions. The most brilliant strategy is worthless if the strategist cannot concentrate their resources. And so we arrive at the pillar that acts as the magnifying glass for all our efforts. It is the pillar that gathers the scattered rays of our potential and concentrates them into a beam so powerful it can burn through any obstacle. This is the pillar of the creation of focus by the elimination of distraction. Let us begin by establishing a fundamental truth of the 21st century. The most valuable currency in our modern economy is no longer capital, labor, or information. The most valuable, and indeed the rarest, currency is deep, focused attention. You must understand that you are living in the midst of a war. It is not a war fought with armies and weapons, but a silent, pervasive war for control of your mind. Trillion-dollar industries powered by the most advanced artificial intelligence and the most sophisticated behavioral psychology have been constructed with a single, unified purpose: to mine, capture, and monetize your attention. Your phone, your social media feeds, your news alerts, the very architecture of the digital world. These are not neutral tools. They are precision-engineered instruments designed to create a state of perpetual distraction. They are designed to addict you to the novel, the immediate, and the trivial. To live a life of distraction in the modern world is not a personal failing. It is the default setting. It is the path of least resistance. To choose a life of focus, therefore, is a radical act of rebellion. It is a declaration of your mental sovereignty. It requires a conscious and strategic effort. Focus is not a state you find. It is a sanctuary you must build. And the first step in building that sanctuary is to understand the nature of the invaders you must repel. Distraction is not a single entity. It is a multi-headed beast that attacks on several fronts. The first front is the most obvious: external digital distractions. These are the constant pings, vibrations, and notifications from our devices. Each one is a tiny external claim on your cognitive resources. Each one pulls you from a state of deep thought into a state of shallow reaction. The designers of these systems have mastered a psychological principle known as variable rewards. Your social media feed is a digital slot machine. You pull the lever by refreshing the page, and you never know what you will get. Most of the time, it is nothing of value, but occasionally you get a small reward, a like, a comment, an interesting tidbit. This unpredictability is precisely what makes it so addictive. It trains your brain to crave the next hit, creating a state of what has been called continuous partial attention. You are never fully present in the task at hand because a part of your mind is always anticipating the next digital interruption. The second front is external physical distractions. Your environment is a powerful, often unconscious influence on your mental state. A cluttered desk, a disorganized office, a television blaring in the background, these things are not neutral. Each object in your field of vision makes a small claim on your attention. Each ambient noise creates a low level of cognitive friction. A disorganized external world promotes a disorganized internal world. You cannot expect to have a clear, focused mind if you are working in a space of chaos. The third and most insidious front is that of internal distractions. You can be in a silent, pristine room with all your devices turned off and still be utterly and completely distracted. Distracted by what? By the relentless chatter of your own mind, the anxieties about the future, the ruminations about the past, the unresolved argument, the endless to-do list looping in your head. These are the weeds growing from within. In many ways, they are the most difficult to manage because you cannot simply turn them off. So, this is the nature of the battle. We are being assaulted from the outside by digital and physical noise, and from the inside by our own undisciplined thoughts. Before we discuss the strategy for victory, let us be painfully clear about the cost of defeat. What is the price we pay for living a life of chronic distraction? The first cost is the death of deep work. Deep work is the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task, allowing you to master complex information and produce results of the highest quality and speed. In an economy that is increasingly automating shallow, repetitive tasks, the ability to perform deep work is becoming one of the most valuable and rarest skills. The person who can sit in a room for 3 uninterrupted hours and create something of value is becoming a superstar. The person who cannot go for 3 minutes without checking their phone is becoming a commodity. A distracted life is a life of shallow effort, producing shallow results. The second cost is the erosion of presence. This is a cost far greater than mere productivity. When you are with your children but your mind is on your email, you are not truly with your children. When you are having a conversation with your spouse, but you are half listening for the vibration of your phone, you are not truly in that conversation. You are physically present, but psychologically absent. Distraction robs you of the texture and richness of your own life. It turns you into a ghost at the feast of your own existence. You are there, but not really. The moments that constitute a life well-lived, moments of deep connection, of quiet contemplation, of joyful absorption in a task, are impossible in a state of distraction. The third and most profound cost is the fragmentation of the self. A life lived by reacting to 1,000 random stimuli a day is a life without a center. Your sense of self becomes scattered, your identity defined not by your own internal values and commitments, but by the endless stream of external demands. You lose the ability to think long, linear, and complex thoughts. Your inner world begins to resemble the chaotic, fragmented nature of your social media feed. You become less of a proactive architect and more of a reactive switchboard operator, constantly plugging and unplugging cables, but never building anything of your own. The cost is clear. A distracted life is a shallow, disconnected, and fragmented life. The alternative is a life of depth, presence, and coherence. How do we build it? We return to our earlier analogy. You must become a ruthless gardener of your mind. A beautiful garden is not a product of hope. It is a product of intelligent design and relentless maintenance. The first task of the gardener is to build your fences. You must create a protected space where deep work and deep living can occur. This is about controlling your external world. For your digital life, this means declaring your independence. Turn off every single notification on your phone and computer that is not absolutely essential for your work or family. You are not a 911 operator. You do not need to be instantly available to everyone and everything. Schedule specific, limited blocks of time to check email and social media. Treat these activities like any other task contained within a specific time box, rather than letting them bleed into every moment of your day. Create a digital sunset, a rule that all screens go off at least 1 hour before you intend to sleep, protecting your rest and your mind from the endless stimulation. For your physical life, this means designing your environment for focus. Your workspace should be a sanctuary, not a storage closet. Keep it clean, organized, and dedicated to its purpose. When it is time for deep work, remove every object that is not essential for the task at hand. A clean environment sends a powerful signal to your brain. This is a place of order. It is time for focused, orderly thought. Once the fences are built, the second task is to pull the weeds. This is the art of managing your internal distractions. The most powerful technique for this is the practice of thought capture. Your mind is brilliant at having ideas, but terrible at holding them. When you are in a focus session and a distracting thought arises, I need to email John. What if that project fails? Don't forget to buy milk. Do not fight it and do not follow it. Simply have a notepad or a piece of paper next to you, your capture pad, and write the thought down. The act of writing it down releases your mind from the burden of having to remember it. You have made a promise to your brain that you will deal with it later. Then, you gently but firmly return your attention to the task at hand. The second method for pulling internal weeds is the proactive practice of stillness. This can take the form of meditation or simply the act of sitting in a chair for 5 minutes in complete silence with no input. The goal is not to empty your mind. The goal is to practice the art of noticing when your mind has wandered and gently bringing it back over and over again. Each time you do this, you are performing a repetition for your attention muscle. You are training yourself to be the master of your mind rather than its servant. The final task of the gardener is to cultivate the soil. This is about proactively structuring your life for focus. The most effective tool for this is the discipline of time blocking. Instead of working from a to-do list, you work from a calendar. You schedule specific fixed blocks of time for your most important deep work tasks. A block from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. might be labeled draft project proposal. During this time, that is your entire world. It is a non-negotiable appointment with your own progress. This method transforms you from a person who hopes to find time for their important work into a person who deliberately makes time. This is the work. It is not easy, but it is essential. It is the work of reclaiming your mind. The ultimate reward for this work is not just greater productivity. The ultimate reward is a life of depth. It is the ability to produce work you are proud of. It is the ability to be fully present with the people you love. It is the ability to hear the quiet, subtle voice of your own intuition. It is the ability to live a life that is coherent, intentional, and truly your own. The battle for your attention is the battle for your life. Choose to be the gardener. Build your fences, pull the weeds, and cultivate the soil of your mind. In doing so, you will create the sanctuary of focus required to build a life of extraordinary substance and meaning. We have come to the final pillar. We have journeyed through a comprehensive architecture for a life of substance. We began with the bedrock of ownership, claiming our role as the creators of our destiny. We gathered the finest materials through the unceasing pursuit of self-improvement. We engaged the engine of progress with the discipline of action. We charted our course with the perspective of the long view. We chose our most reliable ally in the choice of discipline over motivation. And we learned to concentrate our power by creating focus through the elimination of distraction. Each pillar is essential. Each is a load-bearing column in the temple of a well-lived life. But now we arrive at the principle that animates the entire structure. We arrive at the quiet, invisible, yet omnipotent force that takes all our other efforts and multiplies them over time into results that border on the miraculous. This is the seventh and final pillar, the pillar of the compounding power of daily investment. We live in a culture that is obsessed with the event, but blind to the process. We celebrate the lottery win, the viral video, the overnight success. We are addicted to the myth of the quantum leap, the idea that success is a single dramatic, heroic event that suddenly catapults a person from obscurity to greatness. This myth is the most dangerous lie sold to the ambitious. It is a fantasy that creates impatience, discourages effort, and ultimately leads to disillusionment. Why? Because it is a profound misreading of the nature of reality. Great success is almost never the result of a single giant leap. It is the result of 1,000 or 10,000 small, seemingly insignificant steps taken consistently day after day in the right direction. The spectacular result that the world sees is merely the final visible manifestation of a long, unglamorous, and often invisible process. This is the principle of compounding. It is often called the eighth wonder of the world. It is the law that governs the growth of everything of value, from a mighty oak tree to a financial fortune to a masterful skill. And the key to unlocking this power in your own life is to understand the simple but profound philosophy of the slight edge. The slight edge is a choice. It is the choice you make every single day to perform a small positive action or to succumb to a small, seemingly harmless error in judgment. The action itself appears to make no difference at all. It is so small that its immediate impact is imperceptible. Let us make this tangible. Consider the journeys of two individuals, both 25 years old, both starting with the same health, the same education, and the same income. They are friends, living in the same city. Person A, after a long day at work, decides to read just 10 pages of a good book, a book on leadership, finance, or history. And before bed, they choose to drink a glass of water instead of a sugary soda. Person B, after the same long day, decides that they are tired and deserve a break. they choose to watch a half hour of trivial television, and before bed they have that soda. Now, at the end of that day, is there any measurable difference between the lives of person A and person B? Of course not. After a week, no. After a month, it is highly unlikely. Person B might even seem happier, more relaxed. Person A's discipline seems pointless, a minor sacrifice for no visible reward. But this is where the magic or the tragedy of the compounding effect begins. Let us project this simple daily choice forward. After 1 year, person A has read 3,650 pages, the equivalent of 12 to 15 life-changing books. They have consumed roughly 13,000 fewer calories from sugar. Person B has consumed hundreds of hours of passive entertainment and has put several extra pounds of unhealthy weight on their body. The gap is now noticeable. Let us project forward 5 years. Person A has now consumed the knowledge of over 60 powerful books. Their mind is sharper, their vocabulary is richer. They are bringing new ideas and perspectives to their work. They are healthier and have more energy. They are likely earning more money and have deeper, more interesting conversations. Person B is 5 years older, slightly heavier, and is essentially the same person philosophically as they were 5 years prior. The gap is now significant. Now, let us project forward 10 years. The gap is no longer a gap, it is a chasm. Person A is a different human being. They are a leader, an expert, a person of health and vitality. They are living in a completely different reality of opportunity and fulfillment. Person B is stagnant, perhaps resentful, wondering why life seems to have passed them by, never once tracing the cause back to the simple, seemingly harmless daily choices they made a decade ago. This is the slight edge in action. It is a force that is always working, either for you or against you. Every single day, with every small choice, you are either stepping onto an upward curve of success or a downward curve of mediocrity. The choice is so small, so subtle that it is easy to do. But for that very same reason, it is also easy not to do. The compounding power of daily investment applies to every domain of life. Let us examine the 3 most critical areas. First, there is the compounding of knowledge. Your mind is your greatest asset. And like any asset, it can either appreciate or depreciate in value. When you commit to being a lifelong learner, engaging in the pillar of self-improvement every day, you are making a daily deposit into your mental bank account. Reading 10 pages, listening to a 20-minute educational podcast, practicing a new skill for 15 minutes, these are the small investments. The daily interest they accrue is invisible. But over time, the compounded wisdom gives you an insurmountable advantage. You begin to see patterns others miss. You can solve problems more creatively. You become a person of value that the world is eager to reward. Second, there is the compounding of health. Your physical vitality is the fuel for your ambition. The daily choice to take a walk, to stretch, to choose the salad over the fries, to get 30 more minutes of sleep, these are the slight edge investments in your well-being. On any given day, they seem to accomplish nothing. But compounded over years, they are the difference between a life of energy and strength and a life of fatigue and chronic illness. You do not get healthy in a single heroic workout. You build health through 1,000 small, intelligent choices. Third, there is the compounding of wealth. The mathematical principle of compound interest is well known, yet poorly applied. The daily discipline of saving or investing a small amount of money rather than spending it seems insignificant. But over the long arc of a career, it is the single greatest determinant of financial freedom. It is not the high-risk gamble that builds lasting wealth. It is the patient, consistent, and disciplined habit of paying yourself first and letting the magic of compounding do the heavy lifting. In every case, the principle is identical. Small, smart choices plus consistency plus time equals radical difference. So if this principle is so powerful, why do so few people leverage it? We fail for 2 primary psychological reasons. The first reason is our impatience. We have been conditioned by the quantum leap myth. We try a new habit for a week, and when we do not see a dramatic result, we conclude it is not working. We quit, we abandon the upward curve, just as it is beginning its slow, invisible ascent. We must understand what I call the plateau of latent potential. When you begin any new endeavor, there is always a period where your results are not commensurate with your effort. You are pushing the flywheel, you are laying the bricks, you are making the deposits, but the wall is not yet visible and the bank account seems unchanged. This plateau is the great test. It is where your faith in the process is challenged. It is where you must rely on your discipline, not your immediate results, to carry you forward. The vast majority of people quit on this plateau. The successful few are those who have the perspective of the long view to know that the most dramatic growth is happening invisibly beneath the surface and that the breakthrough is inevitable if they just keep going. The second reason we fail is the deceptiveness of the negative curve. The small, poor choices are just as subtle as the positive ones. Eating the donut, skipping the workout, scrolling on social media instead of reading. None of these choices will ruin your life today. The consequences are imperceptible. And because there is no immediate pain, we believe the action is harmless. But those small negative actions are also compounding. They are silent saboteurs, slowly eroding your health, your knowledge, and your potential. One tiny, imperceptible choice at a time. This seventh and final pillar is the ultimate synthesis of all the others. It requires ownership, because you must accept that you and you alone are responsible for your daily choices. It is the practical application of self-improvement, turning learning from an event into a daily process. It is powered by the discipline of action, as it is the consistency of the small actions that unlocks the magic. It is built entirely on the perspective of the long view, as it requires faith in a future result that is not yet visible. It is the ultimate expression of choosing discipline over motivation, because feelings are far too fickle to sustain a daily practice over decades. And it is only possible through the creation of focus, because you cannot make these intelligent daily investments if your attention is constantly being hijacked by the trivial. This is the final piece of the architectural plan. It is not a secret, it is a law. It is the law that governs all growth. Your life is not a lottery. It is a long-term investment portfolio. The quality of your life in 10, 20, and 30 years will not be determined by a few big decisions, but by the cumulative weight of your thousands of small daily choices. So, the ultimate question is not, what grand, heroic action will I take to change my life? The ultimate question is this: what is the one small positive choice I can make today? What is the one page I can read, the one healthy meal I can eat, the $1 I can save, the one extra step I can take? Find that small, slight edge, and then have the wisdom and the discipline to repeat it tomorrow and the day after that. Do this, and you will have harnessed the most powerful creative force in the universe. You will not have to chase success. You will simply build it day by day, choice by choice, until it inevitably arrives. This is the path, this is the work, this is the way of the architect. We have traveled a great distance together in our study today. We have undertaken an ambitious project to unroll the blueprints of a life and examine the foundational pillars upon which a structure of meaning, success, and fulfillment is built. Now, as we draw our time to a close, we arrive at the final and most important phase of any architectural endeavor, the moment of commitment. It is the moment when the study ends and the work begins. This is not a conclusion in the sense of an ending. It is a conclusion in the sense of a final binding decision. It is the architect's ultimate choice. Let us briefly walk back through the great halls of the structure we have designed to remind ourselves of the principles that hold it aloft. We began with the very bedrock, the non-negotiable foundation of it all, the pillar of ownership. We made the courageous choice to abdicate the comforting role of the victim and to seize the powerful mantle of the Creator. We accepted fully and without reservation that we are at cause in the matter of our own lives. We took back the pen. From that foundation, we understood that if we are to create, we must become worthy of the creation. And so we erected the pillar of the unceasing pursuit of self-improvement. We committed to the philosophy of working harder on ourselves than on our jobs, understanding that our outer world will always be a reflection of our inner world. We chose to become lifelong students, to build our libraries, to learn from our experiences, and to tend to the soil of our own character. but knowledge and ownership without application are dormant. So we raised the powerful engine of the pillar of the discipline of action. We rejected the tyranny of our fleeting feelings and the illusion of perfectionism. We learned to bridge the gap between knowing and doing, understanding that it is the small, consistent, unglamorous actions repeated day after day that build empires of achievement. Action, however, requires direction. And so we installed the great navigational instrument, the pillar of the perspective of the long view. We chose to rebel against the frantic immediacy of our culture and to become students of the seasons. We learned to plant in the spring, to cultivate in the summer, to harvest in the autumn, and to renew in the winter. We chose to make decisions based not on the temptations of the moment, but on the vision of the person we intend to become. To sustain this long journey, we needed a reliable fuel source. Thus, we made the crucial distinction in the pillar of the choice of discipline over motivation. We turned away from the spectacular but unreliable firework of external motivation and chose instead to cultivate the small, steady, internal pilot light of discipline, the quiet force of honoring the promises we make to ourselves. With our vehicle in motion and on course, we then had to protect its energy. We erected the pillar of the creation of focus by eliminating distraction. We recognized that attention is the currency of genius, and we declared war on the trivialities that seek to steal it. We committed to becoming ruthless gardeners of our minds, building fences and pulling weeds to create a sanctuary for deep work and deep living. And finally, we unveiled the quiet, inexorable law that governs all growth, the pillar of the compounding power of daily investment. We abandoned the myth of the quantum leap and embraced the profound reality of the slight edge. We understood that the magnificent destiny is not the result of a single heroic act, but the cumulative result of 1,000 small, intelligent choices compounded over time. This is the architecture, 7 pillars working in perfect harmony to support a life of conscious design. And now, with this blueprint in your hands, you stand at a crossroads. Every person at the end of such a study finds themselves standing at the divergence of 2 paths. These are the only 2 paths available to a human being. The first is the path of default. It is a wide, well-trodden, and easy path. Its surface is paved with comfort, with excuses, and with the seductive lure of instant gratification. It is the path of blaming circumstances, of waiting for motivation, of seeking distraction, and of living only for the short term. It requires no effort to walk this path. You need only to drift, to follow the crowd, to react to the whims of the world. The destination of this path is predictable. It is a place called if only. A place of regret, of unrealized potential, and of a quiet nagging sorrow for the life that could have been. The second is the path of design. This path is narrow. It is uphill. It is often a solitary journey. Its surface is paved with discipline, with accountability, and with the discomfort of growth. This is the path of ownership, of daily self-improvement, of focused action, and of a long-term vision. To walk this path requires conscious, deliberate effort. It requires you to choose what is right over what is easy. It requires you to become the architect of your days and the master of your moments. The destination of this path is not guaranteed in its specifics, but its nature is certain. It is a place of self-respect, of fulfillment, of strength, and of the profound satisfaction that comes from knowing you have given your absolute best to become the finest version of yourself. The choice of which path to take is the only choice that truly matters, and it is not a choice you make once. It is a choice you must make every single day. It is a choice you make this evening when you decide to read the book or watch the television. It is a choice you make tomorrow morning when the alarm clock rings and you decide to rise with discipline or surrender to comfort. You are the architect, and this choice is your defining act of creation. Now, as you stand at the head of this path, the path of design, it is my duty to inform you that you will not be without opposition. The moment you commit to this journey, you will encounter a powerful force of resistance. This resistance will not come from your enemies, it will come from within. It will come in the voice of your old habits, begging for the comfort of the familiar. It will come in the form of doubt, whispering that you are not good enough, that you do not have what it takes. It will come in the form of impatience, pointing to the plateau of latent potential and screaming that your efforts are not working. It will come in the form of ridicule, sometimes from others, but most often from that cynical part of yourself that fears change. This resistance is the guardian at the gate of your own greatness. Its purpose is not to stop you. Its purpose is to test you. It is to ask you one question over and over again: how badly do you want it? When you meet this resistance, and you will, you must not fight it with brute force. You must meet it with the quiet strength of your philosophy. When the voice of blame arises, you will meet it with the pillar of ownership. When the voice of ignorance or inadequacy speaks, you will meet it with the pillar of self-improvement. When the voice of procrastination whispers, you will meet it with the pillar of disciplined action. When the voice of impatience demands immediate results, you will meet it with the pillar of the long view. When the voice of fatigue and apathy tells you to quit, you will meet it with the pillar of discipline over motivation. When the lure of the trivial tries to pull you away, you will meet it with the pillar of focus. And when you feel that your small efforts are making no difference, you will meet that doubt with the unwavering faith in the pillar of compounding power. Your philosophy is not just a set of nice ideas. It is your shield and your sword for the journey ahead. And what is the ultimate purpose of this journey? What is the prize for undertaking this difficult, noble work? Is it the money, the success, the accolades? Those are often the byproducts, the shadows cast by a substance. But they are not the substance itself. The ultimate prize is not what you get. The ultimate prize is who you become. The purpose of setting a bold goal is not just to achieve the goal. It is to see what it makes of you to achieve it. The struggle, the discipline, the focus, the learning, these are the fires that forge character. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. If you want more love, become a more loving person. If you want more success, become a more valuable person. If you want more trust, become a more trustworthy person. This is the great work. It is the work of self-creation. It is the understanding that your life is your ultimate art project, your magnum opus. And every day, with every choice, you are either adding a masterful brushstroke to that canvas, or you are smearing the paint. So we end where we began, with a choice. The blueprint is before you. The tools have been offered. The path is clear. The only remaining variable is you. My purpose here has not been to motivate you for a day. It has been to provide you with an architecture of thought that can sustain you for a lifetime. And so my final call to action is not for me, it is for you. It is a call to make a commitment, not a loud public declaration, but a quiet internal promise. A promise to yourself that, starting today, you will consciously and deliberately choose the path of design. That you will pick up one of these pillars, perhaps the one that resonated with you most, and you will begin the real work of integrating it into your daily life. If you are serious about this commitment, if you wish to continue this study and be part of a community dedicated to these principles, then I do invite you to subscribe to this channel. Think of it not as a click of a button, but as the signing of a contract with your future self. A declaration that your education in the art of living has just begun. Thank you for the profound gift of your focused attention. The time for study is now complete. The time for building has arrived. Go and be the architect.